They called it the Silent Abyss. To the alien race known as the Sci-Fi, it was the one place on Earth they refused to explore. The Sci-Fi had traveled across star systems, mastered gravity wells, and endured the crushing void of black holes. But when they studied Earth, they stared at its vast blue surface with unease. The ocean so dark, so deep, so unpredictable were to them madness incarnate. Life cannot survive under such pressure, hissed Commander Verith, his bioluminescent eyes narrowing as he examined holographic scans of the Mariana Trench. Even our pressure suits would collapse. How do these humans even live on a planet like this? His second-in-command, Telon, nodded. We've seen them dominate air and land, but below the waves, impossible. Then came the transmission. It was shaky, distorted footage captured by a human machine descending into a black canyon of the ocean. The Sci-Fi gathered in the command dome, watching as flickering lights pierced through the abyssal dark. The camera followed figures, humans wearing nothing but sleek suits, moving with practiced grace hundreds of meters below the surface. Verith leaned closer. Those are humans. The humans were calm. They signaled to one another, bubbles drifting upward as their flashlights cut through the void. One diver reached out to a strange fish that shimmered with ghostly light. Another carried a camera, laughing soundlessly as their oxygen meter blinked low. Why are they smiling? Telon asked, his tendrils flickering in confusion. The Sci-Fi analyzed every frame. The crushing pressure at those depths could flatten metal, yet humans were there breathing, swimming, thriving. They're fragile, said Verith, trying to rationalize it. They shouldn't survive there. But the more they watched, the more their understanding unraveled. Humans weren't defying physics. They were adapting crafting suits, submarines, and technology so precise it danced with the laws of nature rather than fought them. And it wasn't just about survival. These divers weren't exploring for resources or conquest. They were exploring out of curiosity, out of an insatiable hunger to know what waited beyond the light. Telon turned to Verith. Why would any being risk their life for discovery? Verith didn't answer, because as he watched a human diver vanish into the trench, swallowed by darkness, he realized something terrifying. Humans weren't afraid of the unknown. They ran toward it. The ocean was not their limit. It was their invitation. The Sci-Fi looked down at the blue planet and whispered among themselves, for the first time with something unfamiliar in their voices. And in the silent abyss of Earth's oceans, where even light dared not go, humanity had already been there first. The Sci-Fi were a species that prided themselves on understanding every element of the cosmos, black holes, pulsars, antimatter flows, but nothing unsettled them quite like the deep, crushing dark of an alien ocean. And so, they decided to conquer that fear. Commander Verith stood before his crew in the observation dome, Earth's blue surface stretching below like a living organism. We will send a probe, he declared. If humans can survive the depths, so can we. We must know how. The vessel they launched was built for extremes, forged in the heart of neutron stars, layered in shielding that could withstand pressures the Sci-Fi thought no organic being could bear. They named it the Abyssal Eye. It plunged into the Pacific, vanishing beneath churning waves. Every few seconds, it transmitted visuals first, rays of sunlight cutting through azure waters, then dimming, fading to an endless dark. Bioluminescent creatures began to appear, their bodies glowing like living constellations. The Sci-Fi watched in silence. At 1,000 meters deep, the probe trembled. The external hull groaned. Data readings spiked and flickered, yet the camera kept transmitting. Then, through the flickering haze, a shadow appeared. A human. The Sci-Fi gasped as the shape solidified, a diver alone, descending into the black. Their suit was streamlined, surrounded by bubbles that glowed faintly under the flicker of their helmet light. The human's breathing echoed softly in the probe's audio feed. Impossible, Telon muttered. No one should survive at this depth. But there they were, steady, focused, alive. The human noticed the probe, gave a casual hand signal as if greeting an old friend, then drifted deeper. Verith stared in disbelief. They saw our probe. They're not fleeing. The human diver activated a device, a sleek cylinder that emitted sonar pulses, mapping unseen terrain. The data rippled back through the probe's sensors, forming a 3D image of the trench. That's when the Sci-Fi saw it, a network of steel and light, human-made, a research base in the depths, by the stars, whispered Telon. They've built colonies under the ocean. Not colonies, Verith replied. His voice was tight. They're studying it. They live on the edge of annihilation by choice. The Abyssal Eye's sensors continued to feed data, pressure levels, current speeds, seismic activity. But then came something else, movement. The probe turned its camera. A vast shadow glided past, a creature hundreds of meters long, with eyes that glowed like dying suns. The human diver floated still, watching calmly as the beast drifted by, unafraid. The Sci-Fi Council erupted into shouts of panic, demanding Verith to recall the probe, but he ignored them. For in that moment he understood something deep and unsettling. Humans didn't just survive the impossible, they sought it out. They looked into the darkness and stayed there to learn from it. When the transmission cut out, Verith whispered, almost reverently, "They are not explorers, they are descendants of the abyss itself." The decision divided the Sci-Fi fleet. Half argued it was suicide, the other half said it was destiny. But Commander Verith was already preparing the descent module before any council could stop him. The humans had entered the depths with lungs and courage. Alone how could an interstellar civilization hide behind fear? "The humans walk where we hesitate," he said, fastening his axe. "If they can face the abyss, so will I." Talon, pale and trembling, joined him. "Our pressure suits aren't made for this environment, we could be crushed." "Then let the ocean decide who deserves to see its heart," Verith replied. The module detached from their orbiting mothership and plunged into the Pacific, slicing through the waves. As they sank, the light above faded to shadow, then to nothing. Water pressed against the hull with relentless force, each groan of metal echoing like a heartbeat in the dark. "Depth 5,000 meters, Talon reported. His voice was thin, tight with terror. "Pressure reaching structural limits." But Verith's eyes glowed brighter. "Keep going." Outside, faint lights began to flicker. Creatures the Sci-Fi had never catalogued drifted past, translucent, alien, impossibly beautiful. One looked like a ribbon of living lightning. Another was a sphere of glass filled with glowing fluid. "This ocean is alive," Talon whispered. "It's not empty, it's singing." Then, amid that glowing wilderness, they saw it. The human base. A colossal dome of steel and glass anchored into the trench wall, faint lights glowing from within. Machines extended out like limbs, gathering samples from volcanic vents and deep-sea lifeforms. "Unbelievable," Verith breathed. "They built a city where even light cannot reach." The module descended further, approaching the structure. Then a signal appeared, a human transmission. "Unidentified vessel. This is Abyssal Research Station 7. You're not on any registry. Identify yourself." Verith froze. "They've detected us." Before they could respond, a smaller craft emerged from the base, a human submersible. Sleek and angular, maneuvering effortlessly through the pressure currents. Its floodlights illuminated the Sci-Fi module. Inside, a figure appeared in the viewport, a woman in a reinforced diving suit. She looked at them with calm curiosity, not fear. Verith's translator activated. "We come in peace," he managed. Her voice was faint, but steady. "Then welcome to the bottom of the world." The submersible guided them toward the station. As they entered Verith's suit, sensors screamed pressure, oxygen, temperature, all fluctuating wildly. The humans adjusted their environment dynamically, adapting the chamber so the Sci-Fi could breathe. When the hatch opened, Verith stepped out and saw the impossible. Humans laughing, working, living under a pressure that could turn steel to dust. One diver passed by with a tablet, smiling. "Don't mind the creaks, you get used to it after the first few weeks," Telhan whispered, awestruck. "They joke in the face of death." And Verith realized that what drove humans here wasn't madness, it was reverence. They didn't fear the ocean, they respected it, lived in harmony with it. For the first time in his long life, Commander Verith bowed his head. "Your kind," he said softly, "has made peace with the abyss." The deeper they went, the quieter the ocean became, until silence itself felt heavy. The abyssal whisper descended beyond 8,000 meters, entering what the crew called the death zone, where no light, no warmth, and no human had ever stayed long. The alien observers on the surface, those left behind in orbit, watched the feed with trembling limbs. The humans inside were still alive, their voices calm, their faces determined. To the aliens, it was like watching mortals stroll into the jaws of a god. "Pressure is stable," Dr. Patel reported, her voice slightly shaky. "Hull integrity at 98%. Temperature outside, negative to Celsius. Oxygen levels steady." Captain Hughes nodded, gripping the control handles. "Let's keep her steady." "We're nearing the trench lip." The trench stretched before them like a wound in the planet's skin, dark, endless, and utterly still. Then, out of that blackness, a flicker of movement appeared. Something enormous, something alive. It wasn't fish. It wasn't anything in the human records. The creature's body shimmered faintly in bioluminescent hues, pale blue and ghostly white. Its eyes were enormous, adapted for darkness. It moved with the slow grace of a dream, its size dwarfing the sub. For a moment, No one spoke. Then the alien observers began chattering in disbelief. Life exists there. Under that pressure, impossible. Hughes smiled faintly. Impossible's just our starting point. The massive creature glided past them, unbothered, as if they were nothing but dust in its world. Cameras captured every detail, every movement. To the aliens, the sight was like staring at a miracle proof that life on Earth was tougher, stranger, and more adaptable than they'd ever imagined. But as the sub continued its descent, the calm broke. An alarm screamed. Whole stress warning, pressure spike detected, reinforced seals. Patel shouted, hands flying over the controls. The outer plating's flexing, damn it. It's holding for now. Hughes gritted his teeth. The lights flickered. The feed to the alien ship cut in and out. Panic rippled through the alien ranks. Surely this was the end. Surely no being could survive that crushing force. But in the darkness of the abyssal whisper held. Its hull groaned like a beast under strain, but it didn't break. The human crew sat in absolute silence, feeling the weight of 10,000 meters pressing down on them and the quiet pride of doing what every alien said was impossible. Then the sonar pinged. Another movement. Something below them. The humans looked at one another. Hughes's voice was calm but electric. We're not alone down here. Patel swallowed hard. Captain, if there's something living deeper than this. He smiled faintly. Then we've got more to learn. The feed cleared again, and the aliens above stared in horror and awe as a shape far larger than the sub stirred in the black below, something ancient, alive, and utterly alien to both species. And yet, somehow, the humans didn't turn back. They drove deeper. The ocean floor was not flat, it pulsed. At first, the crew thought it was an illusion caused by sonar interference, but as they descended past 9,000 meters, the readings became unmistakable. Something vast was moving beneath the sediment. Breathing. Captain Hughes steadied his voice. Hold position. Cameras. Full power. Floodlights cut through the darkness, and the sight that met them froze everyone. The seafloor was rising slowly, rhythmically, as if the earth itself were alive. Then, from beneath the mud and rock, a single titanic eye opened. Amber light filled the void. The abyssal whisper trembled as its sensors spiked wildly. The creature wasn't just large, it was planetary. Its iris alone was the size of the submersible. One twitch of its body sent a shockwave through the water that rocked them like a leaf in a hurricane. Mother of God, whispered Patel. Is it sentient? Another crew member asked. No one answered, but the creature's gaze lingered. It was not blind instinct, it was awareness. On the alien observation ship orbiting Earth, chaos erupted. Impossible. That mass could not survive this depth. This pressure defies molecular cohesion, yet it lives, said another softly, unable to look away. The humans found it, not us. The giant's bioluminescence began to shift, ripples of blue and green light flashing in intricate patterns. Hughes leaned forward, realizing something incredible. It's communicating. Patel's fingers danced over her controls, recording visual sequence, translating through frequency patterns. The computer tried to make sense of it, converting light pulses into sound. A low, deep hum filled the subsound that resonated in their bones. Then the translation appeared on screen, one trembling word at a time. Who? Trespassers. Everyone froze. Even the aliens above fell silent. The humans had found something ancient enough to speak, and it wasn't friendly. Hughes steadied his breath. This is Captain James Hughes of the research vessel, Abyssal Whisper. We come in peace. We seek knowledge. The hum deepened. The water itself seemed to shiver. Then, new words appeared, slower this time. Knowledge, costs. Before anyone could react, the lights dimmed. The temperature in the cabin dropped. The sonar began to scream with a chorus of echoes, hundreds of smaller life forms rising from the depths, swarming. Creatures that glowed faintly like the great being above them, offspring, guardians, or servants, they couldn't tell. Patel gritted her teeth. They're surrounding us, Hughes whispered. Don't move. The alien observers were in a frenzy now. Pull them out. They'll be crushed. But Hughes ignored the panic. His eyes locked on the colossal being outside. We came this far, he said. We're not turning back now. He toggled the come. We seek understanding. What is this place? There was a long pause. The ocean around them went utterly still. Then the voice returned so deep it felt like the earth itself was speaking. This is where life began, and where it returns. And in that moment, every alien watching understood. The humans had just survived the depths. They had found the origin of something beyond their own species, something cosmic. The creature's eye dimmed. The smaller lights drifted away, as if granting safe passage. Patel exhaled shakily. It let us go, Hughes smiled faintly. Or it wants us to tell its story. Above, the alien fleet watched in stunned silence. For the first time in their history, they doubted their own superiority. The humans were not fragile. They were fearless creatures who walked into death to find truth. And the truth, it seemed, was older than the stars themselves. When the abyssal whisper finally began its ascent, silence filled the cabin not from fear, but from awe. No one spoke as the crushing dark gave way to faint blue light above. Each meter upward felt heavier, not lighter, as if the weight of what they'd seen clung to their souls. The glowing eye, the voice of the abyss, the truth it whispered, this is where life began, and where it returns. Captain Hughes kept his eyes on the sonar, though it showed nothing now but emptiness. Mark our depth, he said softly. This will be known as the abyssal origin. Dr. Patel nodded, still shaking. Do you think it was a god? Hughes thought for a long moment before answering. Maybe not a god. Maybe something older than the idea of gods. When the submersible broke through the surface, the world above seemed too bright, too thin. The waves sparkled under sunlight, indifferent to what had happened miles below. But to the crew, every shimmer carried a new meaning, a connection to something vast and eternal. As they climbed onto the deck, the research team waiting above cheered, unaware of what their colleagues had just witnessed. Hughes and Patel exchanged a look. How could they possibly explain it? Words would fail, science would fail. And yet, somewhere above the atmosphere, a council of alien leaders watched in silence. Their holographic chamber flickered with static data streams filled with seismic readings, biosignatures, and footage of the creature. One alien finally spoke, voice trembling. These humans, they sought the unknown not for conquest, but for understanding. Another slammed a clawed hand on the table. They are reckless. They endanger themselves for curiosity. Exactly, the elder replied. That is what makes them dangerous. He turned toward the hologram of Earth spinning slowly in the void. They face storms, fire, radiation, and oceans that would crush them, and still they go deeper. They do not fear death. They study it. The room fell silent. None dared to disagree. One alien scientist sung with bright silver eyes whispered softly, maybe we feared the wrong species. Weeks later, back on Earth, the Abyssal Whisper and its crew were debriefed by the Global Oceanic Council. They showed recordings, sonar data, and light patterns, but none could truly capture what had happened. Patel submitted her report with trembling hands. We encountered a being of unknown scale and intelligence at 9,000 meters below sea level. It demonstrated communication via bioluminescent pulses, indicative of language and emotion. The encounter suggests that consciousness in the universe is not limited to surface dwellers. It begins and perhaps ends in the deep. The world reacted with disbelief, then fascination. Scientists debated. Theologians wept. Conspiracy theorists screamed. But among the crew, something profound had changed. They no longer saw the ocean as empty space. It was alive, infinite, sacred. Captain Hughes retired quietly. Patel continued her research, dedicating her life to decoding the bioluminescent patterns. And late one night, years later, she succeeded. The message was longer this time. When translated, it read, "You are of us. The first breath you took came from the deep. When you are ready, you will return." Patel stared at the glowing script, tears filling her eyes. She looked out the window at the dark horizon where sea met sky. Far above, hidden in orbit, the alien observers recorded her transmission. One of them whispered in their native tongue, they found their origin. Another corrected softly, no, they remembered it. And so, the legend spread not of humans as fragile creatures gasping in a dangerous universe, but as explorers born from the abyss itself. Beings who stared into the black, unblinking void and made it stare back. The aliens never invaded Earth after that, because how do you conquer a species that finds home in the places you fear most?